A couple years ago, the legislature in Michigan decided to completely change our expungement laws, often known and widely known as the Clean Slate Laws, where instead of just one felony, now the state of Michigan and our expungement law is permitting up to 3 felonies to be expunged and an unlimited number of misdemeanors, including 2 domestic violence cases. The Clean Slate Law also added automatic expungements, and so after 10 years, certain felony offenses will automatically be expunged. This is, quite frankly, absolutely amazing. At the time that it happened, I was really, really excited about it. I was really happy for a lot of people who were convicted of felonies and were not otherwise able to do a lot of things that non-felons can't do, particularly get good jobs and carry firearms. So when the Clean Slate Law was passed, this office, my office, represented a lot of people in getting their convictions expunged. And quite frankly, it's been a cool thing. Now what we have seen recently is that the ATF and the Department of Justice has taken the position that many of these automatic expungements and domestic violence expungements don't count for the definition of a prohibited person pursuant to federal law and their ability to be able to carry and possess a firearm. This is fascinating. It's so fascinating, in fact, that we have seen people get their convictions expunged, be able to pass a federal background check, be able to purchase a firearm, and then apply to the county in which that they reside, and then get a permit to carry a concealed weapon. And for years thereafter, they have been doing so. In fact, many people have been collecting firearms, own many firearms, and they're able to carry them concealed and carry them in their vehicles, of course, pursuant to Michigan law. Well, now we see things are changing. We see things really changing in terms of firearm laws really across the country. But here in Michigan, we now see that the Department of Justice has decided, as they are going to people's homes, people that were convicted of these offenses and then had them either automatically expunged or expunged through Clean Slate, and taking those firearms back.
A domestic violence conviction gets expunged completely off his record. But then the feds come in and take his guns. After all that time? Really?
Staying on topic, a man convicted of domestic violence worked to better his life by getting it expunged from his record. He claims feds came to his house and took something he wasn't allowed to own because of that previous conviction. Fox 2's Charlie Langton takes a closer look.
That's how you fire the binary, bro.
Meet 34-year-old Jeremy Wilburn, now living in Allen Park. After February 2022, Jeremy loved to make YouTube videos of gun safety.
And then I'm using an MGK kit.
You're really into guns?
Yeah. We have a good time. Sport shooting is fun.
But making those videos was only fun for about a year and a half. After November of this year, the ATF took Jeremy's guns because he had a domestic violence misdemeanor conviction dating back to April 2008. You only made one mistake in your life. That's it.
That's it. Just one.
And for that one domestic violence mistake 15 years ago, the judge put Jeremy on probation and ordered him to take a domestic violence course. No jail. And in February 2022, that one mistake was expunged.
Expungement is the process by which that we file something with the court to remove that conviction from their record.
Attorney Barton Morris filed a federal lawsuit saying that Jeremy has a clean record after the expungement and should be able to possess firearms. But the feds told Morris that Jeremy could be convicted of domestic violence again.
That's unfair for them to say that he should be forever barred or forever prohibited from carrying a firearm just because he potentially could get a second offense.
Some people might say if you have a domestic violence conviction, you shouldn't own a gun.
Well, I mean, I could see if I was a ongoing violent offender or somebody who broke the law constantly, then maybe that may be true. But for somebody who messed up as a kid and got their life straight and is going straight and narrow, I wouldn't see why not.
The ATF has not formally responded to the complaint, and there's no court date yet in this lawsuit. In Troy, Charlie Langton, Fox 2 News.
Can you imagine if you had this conviction expunged and then you have a number of firearms in your home and then ATF agents come to your house and say, give them back the thousands of dollars that you've spent on these firearms you're no longer allowed to have. The expungements that you thought that were going to expunge your record is not really the case pursuant to federal law. Well, that is happening. And so we have discovered, because we're doing so much of this work and because we do and we are experts in firearms and firearm possession and federal law, we had to do something about it, and we are doing something about it. See, because what's going on is this. The federal government says, you know what, yeah, you may have had a domestic violence, and of course those convicted of a domestic violence are no longer permitted to be in possession of a firearm. Well, when it's expunged, what happens is if a second domestic violence were to occur, they can actually bring that first offense back. It doesn't actually go on your record, but it can count as a predicate offense as a second offense, and therefore it doesn't really go away. That's at least what the federal government is saying. That's what the Department of Justice is saying, is that residual ability for that conviction to come back and be used as a predicate offense for a second offense domestic violence or a second assaultive crime for the other number of automatic expungements that may have occurred, that it doesn't really count. And so they're going back and taking those firearms. We have initiated and filed a declaratory action in federal court against the Department of Justice, the ATF, and the FBI to have a federal court declare that Michigan law does permit a full restoration of their federal firearm rights, that Michigan's Clean Slate Law does permit those that used to have a domestic violence to be in possession of a firearm and a permit to carry a concealed weapon when they get that conviction expunged. That's, of course, what was intended. I mean, come on. Do we really want a situation where somebody can get their convictions expunged and then still be a prohibited person pursuant to federal law? That is not what was intended. Listen, whether you like firearms or not, it is a fabric within our society. It is something that is embodied within our Constitution. The Second Amendment states that we should be given the constitutional right to bear arms. And while there are certainly legitimate reasons why many of those rights can be taken away, like in the situation of being a felon, you can't be in possession of a firearm if you're a felon, or even somebody that is been convicted of domestic violence, or somebody that's been convicted or of offenses to which they have a mental health illness. I don't think anybody disagrees that those with a mental health illness should not be in possession of a firearm, because those are the ones that are really doing bad things with those firearms. But that's not what we're talking about here. We're talking about our lead plaintiff, Jeremy Wilburn. He's a guy who had a conviction in 2012 and then for domestic violence, had gotten it taken off his record, never been in trouble before that, never been in trouble after that, then went and was able to pass the background check, purchase firearms, get a permit to carry a concealed weapon, never been in trouble before, is an avid firearm collector, and uses them in a responsible manner, and now the ATF comes and says that he can no longer have those firearms in his possession. We're not standing up for that. We're going to court. We're going to do something about it, and we'll see what happens. But I can tell you one thing. We're going to fight for him. We're going to fight for everybody that is similarly situated, and we're going to fight for the Second Amendment, and we're going to fight against the federal government, which is something that I'm very much looking forward to doing. Thank you.